Seems that one thing that most of my peers do not understand, especially the more successful they become, is that we work in a luxury industry, which is why they keep selling you goals such as bulking and building muscle mass and being a mass monster and whatever the hell people prioritize now in the fitness industry. And it's also the reason why this channel is free and everything on it is free, because I myself am a peasant and I wish I had the money to afford all of the things that I learned through trial and error and getting injured and frankly a lot of pain. Our product, personal training, is basically a luxury item most people cannot or will not afford. However, with that said, every single client I have started with has stayed with me over the years. There is a good reason for that. Even though it is a luxury item, even though it is very expensive, having personal training has changed all of their perspectives on what it is that they truly want to get out of their fitness journey. Most of them start with pretty much the exact same goals, and that would probably be 90% of you guys too, which is either aesthetics, wanting to look better, or building muscle mass. None of them start with the idea that they want to cultivate skills, stay healthy, loose and limber and strong, and increase the quality of life in the long run. These kinds of goals only develop later on once you get deeper into your whole workout and fitness journey. And while I have said multiple times that I do not believe that aesthetics is goal when it comes to fitness in general, especially in the long run, if it gets your foot through the door, then I'm all happy for you. Aesthetics is a byproduct of your training, not the other way around. If you truly have a holistic way of getting into workouts, then there is no chance of you ending up looking bad or out of shape. In fact, if you can work on skills instead of aesthetics, you will probably look better than 99% of people who go in with the mentality that they actually want to look good. Now, why do I keep yapping about this instead of just demonstrating exercises so you can move on to the next video? There are, in my opinion, a handful of quality of life goals you should prioritize before you get into aesthetics at all. So if you're ready, let's go through the checklist together and find out what exercises we can do to increase all of those aspects. Skill number one, something most people take for granted, is getting up from the floor without the use of your hands. And that means not only from a classic seated position, for instance, like a Turkish seat, like so, but from all positions. You can start out with working on that with very simple variations, helping out with your hands, but over time you should be able to, from any position you're in, even laying on the floor, you should be able to get up on your feet without having the use of your hands. Without exaggeration, I'm pretty sure a lot of you can't even do that in their 20s and 30s, let alone getting older and doing that in your 60s and 70s when you truly need to. Some of you think, how can you call this a skill? This is pretty foundational and most people or all people can do that. Trust me on this one, most people cannot. That is pretty depressing for me. Skill number two, very important, being able to balance yourself on a single foot. There is the so-called old man test where you're standing on one foot and you put on your socks and you put on your shoes while standing and without your foot touching the ground to make sure that you are capable of balancing on both feet. Now you can use that to test your own balance, but there are a handful of exercises you can work on to increase that with the least amount of effort. Exercise number one, very underrated, just standing on one foot. You can do that while you're at home cooking. You can do that while you're watching TV. You can do that while you're doing whatever the hell you are doing and work on your balance without adding any additional effort to your life. Of course, you have to switch it up, left side, right side, and it's very easy to start with your foot right here, down on your ankles, and over time you can move it up, 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 or even back and hold it. This exercise is basically peak efficiency because it takes zero effort to add to your life. You can do it at any given moment where you're standing or when you're sitting. Just get the hell up and do it. It'll cost you almost nothing, but its benefits are absolutely insane. Now, while this kind of beginner balance is a foundation, it is not yet enough to get you to the true level we need. But the best exercises to get you there are single leg or unilateral exercises. For instance, one foot flat on the ground, leg fully extended. We're gonna bend over, keep our back in an extension or neutral if possible, which is gonna require enough posterior chain flexibility. And if you're using your right foot, it's time to use your left hand to raise and reverse that movement. Be sure to keep your hip parallel to the ground. Switch it up, all the way up, all the way down, and work your way up with more and more weight through classic progressive overload. And of course, most people's favorite leg exercise with a long range of motion will help you not only build the necessary balance, but also the necessary strength in your quads. And combined with the last exercise that was posterior chain dominant, now we have a nice leg workout we can use to advance not only our leg strength, but also our balance, which in turn will increase our core strength because balance is one of its major functions. All the way up, all the way down, and of course switch it up. Hand left, hand right, and the same goes for both legs. Now our next priority will be strength, and we only have 2 exercises we're going to use for that because they are a pretty good indicator of not only how strong you are, but also how much control you have over your entire body. The very first strength priority exercise should be the deadlift, and your goal should be reaching at the very least 100 kilograms, which is about 225 pounds. Now, if I, at the very low weight of 60 kilograms, can deadlift 195 kilos, I am pretty sure you can get to 100 kilos yourself, which for most people is barely going to be 1.5 times their own body weight. The sumo deadlift will help you build massive strength in your lower body, add a little bit of strength to your upper body, especially your lumbar spine and spinal erectors. But what's very important about this exercise is that it really helps with longevity. The older you become, the more your leg musculature deteriorates, which means that you move around less, which means that the rest of your body deteriorates with you. And over time, it is a cycle of getting weaker and weaker and increasing your risk of injury or death. As for the second priority strength exercise, it's not gonna surprise anyone that we're talking about pull-ups. If you can, the classic overhand pull-up should be more than enough to build the necessary strength in your upper body. However, work on lateral pull-ups, work on typewriter pull-ups, and work on all kinds of variations so you can build a little bit more control in your upper body. This is a bonus. You can stop at the classic pull-up. However, I'm pretty sure that once you advance to this level, you're gonna wanna learn more and more and more. If you wanna learn how to do a pull-up step by step, check out this video where we go through it from a very beginner level and advance to the most advanced variations there are. And with both those exercises combined, you have built an amazing foundation when it comes to strength as well as control in your body. And of course, through doing that, your aesthetics and how you look will improve as well. Now, if you've been on this channel before, you're gonna be surprised that this is priority number 4. The only reason I put this at the very end is because it is the most complex and the one we can work on the most: full body mobility. I am not talking about flexibility, your ability to lengthen a muscle and stretch it. I am talking about mobility, your ability to take a joint through a long range of motion and switch positions with your entire body into whatever you feel like. And that is one of the skills that you will have to perfect your entire life. Now, in my last video, I shared a mobility exercise that will take care of your entire body's mobility requirements in one single routine. However, I will add a second one here just in case you don't want to take the time to watch another one of my videos, which I will take personally. Mobility goal number 1, a deep squat with both feet completely flat on the ground. Until you can do that, you are still in the very beginner levels of working on your mobility. This is pretty fine. This is also pretty great. But until you are here, you have to work on your ankle, knee, and hip mobility. Once you are here, we're gonna start with internal hip rotation, one of the most important movement patterns you have to be able to do. Then we have external hip rotation with activation of our posterior chain. And then we have the combination of internal and external hip rotation into a 90-90 switch for complete lower body mobility competence. Once you're here, we're gonna start adding spinal mobility through rotation, which also is gonna add shoulder mobility, just like so, going into spinal rotation and extension and of course, moving into the other direction with complete control, meaning that you should be able to go through this movement in slow motion, but you should also be able to go through this movement explosively without any problems. Now, mobility is basically the culmination of everything we have learned so far, put together into one singular goal. And it is one that has barely any limits, and you will have an absurd blast while going through the more advanced things once you pass this first hurdle of starting mobility work. And priority number 5, last but definitely not least, is cardio. Now, when it comes to cardio, the most sustainable form of working on your cardio is not jogging, running, cycling, or anything. It is actually walking. If you can add 20 to 30 minutes of walking to your daily routines, and I literally mean daily, this should be more than enough to get your cardio system, at the very least, primed for the most basic of exercises, as well as having enough quality of life going to be able to go for a walk when you're really, really old. Now, adding that with all the other priorities, which in turn are also going to add some cardio to your exercises, you are now primed and ready to have a good quality of life while you are getting older. Just with the muscle atrophy in the legs we talked about before, the lower your cardio strength, the less you will walk around, the more your cardio will decrease, and you're back into that deadly cycle. And if you have that with strength, and if you have that with cardio, and if you have that with mobility, you're gonna have an absolute shit life. That positive notion, thank you all for dropping by. This is sadly all the time I've left for you today. However, if you like the video and subscribe and check out the other videos I mentioned, as well as this video, the one mobility exercise that changed my life entirely, and that, if taken to its limit, will take care of all of your mobility, strength, and endurance needs in one single go. And I will see you guys tomorrow, because we literally have new videos every single day. So until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.